Well, today I got all your favorites. We got the leaf blower guy in the background, got my beautiful wife Lizzie here.
Hi guys.
So feels like we're just right back in Miami today. Now it's been a while since I've talked about Florida, and some people have been asking me to talk about it, and I'm going to today because it could be literally one of the worst times ever to move to Florida right now if you're a home buyer, okay? If you're planning on buying a house or a condo in Florida, your timing probably really couldn't be worse than right now. This doesn't really apply to renters. If you have a job lined up and you're moving to the state and you're going to be renting, doesn't apply to you. Don't worry about it because rents are coming down, lots of inventory with rentals starting to pile up, and being a renter is probably a good thing to be right now in Florida. But I can't say the same for potential homeowners because there are a lot of things happening and shifting in the Florida housing market right now that everyone needs to be aware of. The first thing we need to look at is just how much the inventory in the state is exploding, okay? The inventory is above pre-pandemic levels. When you take a look at this chart here, we can see that as of right now, there's about 141,000 homes for sale in the state of Florida, and pre-pandemic, it was always right around 135,000. So it has actually gone above pre-pandemic levels, and to add insult to injury, the inventory growth has been immense, okay? You can see here that as of 2024, the inventory growth in the state has grown 70% year over year. People are asking, oh, why is this happening? I mean, is this really a surprise to anyone who's been watching my channel for a while? Think about it, guys. I've been talking to you about everything that's been happening there. The insurance rates have completely exploded for people. Property tax bills have also exploded, especially for anybody who bought in the last couple of years or who is looking to buy right now. You also have this giant condo crisis with all of the HOA fees exploding simultaneously. Okay, these are all recipes for disaster. And you combine that with people just not making enough money, like we also talk about here on the channel. Many people are forced to sell these houses, okay? You cannot, hang on to a home you can't afford. And that's unfortunately the case for a lot of the people who are selling these homes. Now, another thing that we can look at as a key metric that shows you what's happening in the state of Florida with real estate values is take a look at the price growth. You guys can see that, Florida had a lot of solid years there with price growth. A few years after the 2008 housing crash, home prices definitely did go up. And of course, it shot up tremendously during the COVID years. But the last couple of years, the price growth has been lackluster. I mean, we're talking down to 1.7% year over year price growth. Now, this is for the whole state. This data, this is not reflective of different regions or different counties in Florida. Like you can look at places like in Miami where I live, and price growth is still up, a positive 5.5% or so year over year. But the inventory is building there as well. It's not like Miami's immune from these problems we're talking about here. It's just that it really hasn't hit to the level it has in other parts of the state, which I'll get to in a little bit, because prices are already coming down in several metros across the state. I mean, if you look at places like Southwest Florida, guys, that is ground zero right now for inventory explosion and price reduction. And it's most likely due to the Hurricane Ian that struck the area a couple of years ago. There was a tremendous amount of damage. A lot of people try to make insurance claims and it didn't work, or they don't get the amount of money that they expect to get. This can really screw up a homeowner's finances. And on top of that, a lot of people trying to sell these homes at the same time. When you see this explosion of inventory, it inevitably brings prices down, okay? Places like Cape Coral, Fort Myers, Sarasota, all these areas have negative year-over-year price growth, but it's not just limited to Southwest Florida. You're starting to see cracks in the housing market in the Villages, in the Panama City Beach area. So it's almost a guarantee that everywhere in Florida is going to see home prices come down to some degree, and some places already are. To what extent, no one really knows. It's anyone's guess. You can look at how overvalued the home prices are, and that can give you maybe some indication, but there's a lot of wild card factors that can also play into this. We talk all the time about how the economy is already in dire straits and we're not even really in an official recession yet, and things can get a lot worse. So it's kind of unpredictable on how much you can see inventory explode in the future or how much we might see prices come down. There have just been way too many data breaches recently, and it is just getting to the point where too many people have your information that shouldn't have it. And part of the problem is once these data breaches happen, then a lot of this information gets sold to people who are not supposed to have it. And that's why today's video is sponsored by Delete Me. Delete Me is a hands-free subscription service that will remove your personal information that's being sold online. Delete Me's privacy experts will also remove you from hundreds of data brokers all year long. In fact, when I first signed up for Delete Me, you guys can see how much progress I have made with them. They have reviewed literally thousands of listings on my behalf and have removed hundreds of those listings. They remove things like your address, your property records, your name, family members' names, your age, just things that other companies shouldn't have about you. So make sure you get 20% off your Delete Me subscription by joining today using my link down below at joindeleteme.com/board-and-arrow or use the QR code on the screen. And you know, I've talked a lot with you guys about the condo crisis and a lot of problems that's happening with that, and it's getting so bad that at least in Miami-Dade County, I can't speak for any other counties in the state, maybe they offer this in other places too, but they are all now offering financial assistance for condo owners that cannot afford to pay these crazy special assessments that they're coming up with over there, because they're so large that, you know, most people are in the position where they just have to sell the condo, and sometimes the condo's not even worth the money that they need to ask for it because of the amount of repairs that need to be done. So that's probably worst case scenario for a condo owner right now. So what this program is it's called the Condominium Special Assessment Program, and it's designed to help condo owners in Miami-Dade pay for special assessments. And basically, you can be eligible for this if you make 140% or less of the area's median annual income. And it goes by family size as well. So the maximum amount of money you can earn if you have a family of 8, when you look at this table, that is $190,000 a year, which probably isn't enough in Miami, let's face it, if you have to feed and clothe 8 people. For just a family of 4, you know, the maximum you can make is $144,000 a year. And you can say, well, that's a lot more than I make, but maybe it is. But in the state of Florida, especially in Miami, it's really not that much. And obviously, if you're making that much, you're not going to qualify for the full financial assistance. And if you're wondering what the full financial assistance is, they're giving people up to $50,000 with a repayment period of 40 years, guys. So we've been talking about all these different programs that are being offered when it comes to helping people buy homes that shouldn't even live in the United States. You know, they're illegal aliens. We've been talking about stimulus programs that have been helping people buy homes that literally can't afford it. Well, now we have a program in Miami to help people stay in their home who also can't afford to stay in their home. So the never-ending game of let's try to keep people in their home no matter what cost. Apparently, that seems to be the game that all these governments are playing. And check this out. For the lowest income families, okay, I'm going to put this list up on the screen to give you guys more of an idea of what's going on with this. For the lowest income families, the lowest monthly payment would be only $50 per month. And then the rest of the money that they owe would be due at the maturity date of the loan. So you're paying $50 a month for 40 years, and then whatever the balance is after that, then you have to pay it after 40 years. Now this works a lot like the other loan programs that they're giving out to people when they're just giving free money essentially, that if you refinance the property or you sell it or you cease to use the property as your primary residence because this is not available to investors, then the loan is due immediately. There are also qualifications that need to be met if, for example, you have someone who passes away and the property gets passed down to the heirs of the property. They also have to sort of qualify for this additional money, and if they don't, they have to pay that back if it's payable. So for example, if you are somebody who inherits a condo in Florida and you know for sure that, you know, your grandfather or whoever it is low income and maybe they have one of these loans, then you need to see about that before you sell the property or before you even inherit the property, because you may be on the hook for this additional money if, for example, you don't qualify or you make too much money. So you could actually end up with a property that you inherit and you got to pay back 50 grand on behalf of your deceased family member because you don't qualify to get that money. Now, the only good thing about this is when you get this money, it goes straight towards the condo association to pay off the special assessment. It's not like they give people money they can put in their bank account and decide what to do with it from there. But you know what kind of drives me crazy about this? Not really the fact that they're giving people who need help money, the fact that there's a longer list of qualifications that you need to have to get this loan to stay in your condo than an illegal immigrant has to pass, like in terms of the amount of items they need to check off a list to get the money, guys. Like, you know, I talked about places like Oregon and California giving out tremendous amounts of money for people to buy homes that aren't even supposed to be here, and the only qualification is you're not supposed to be here, basically. You know, and you have to have a social security number or ITIN number. That's it. But if you want to get one of these loans to stay in your condo, you got to have this entire checklist, you know, the valid Florida ID, warranty deed, last 4 pay stubs, copy of social security cards. You have to have the HOA fees and mortgage payments current. You have to have a description of the work to be done, semi-annual reports from the condo, blah, 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 to get 50 grand, but here in California, they're giving 150 grand to someone who's not supposed to be here. Imagine that. And the list goes on too. I mean, check out this entire list of things you need to have. Proof of US citizenship, most current 3 months of bank statements, copy of current HOA fees, birth certificates, last 2 years federal income tax returns, proof of hazard insurance, copy of utility bills, and the list goes on. But you can show up right over here and get a house for free with no qualifications. Anyways, the reason why I wanted to bring up this entire free money program for condo owners is, number one, to let people know about it in case you live in Miami-Dade and you do need to take advantage of this. But this is just another reason of why it's such a terrible time to move to Florida and be a buyer. Like, if you're stepping into a situation like this right now, honestly, I feel sorry for you, because I feel like most people have no idea what they're stepping into right now. I just think it's not wise to move to an area that you can see that prices are coming down, simultaneously inventory is going up. That is a recipe for pretty much a guarantee in the future you'll be able to get a better deal. And the more that people hold off, then the better it's going to be for the future. The more chance you're going to have at a later date to get a better deal. And just to give you guys an example of how volatile things are right now, especially with insurance, which is something that's getting better and I'll talk about in a little bit. But right now, one of my viewers, Leo, he wrote me a short email talking about his uncle. He lives in South Florida, and he was told that his homeowner's insurance was going to be going up to $11,000 a year, and he would need to get a new roof even if there's nothing wrong with his in order to keep his insurance. This has been a very common thing that you're hearing from a lot of homeowners across the state right now. And so what he did is he decided to pay off the house, and he bought the best hurricane shutters and protection that he could afford, and now he's self-insuring his house. And the thing is, that's good. It does help protect against hurricanes, but no amount of shutters or a new roof or anything is going to protect you against flooding, which is one of the biggest threats that we face in Florida, especially if there is a major hurricane. So unfortunately, that's what people are facing. You know, if I was this guy, I would probably at least still have flood insurance and maybe not have homeowners insurance unless you're forced to have a homeowners insurance policy in order to have a flood policy. Then that could be the caveat there. But if you can just get flood and eliminate the rest, and you're in a situation like this, that might be the best move for some people. And I'm not saying that everyone should do this, or people should just go without insurance. People are accepting a higher liability for a multitude of different things, and that's a personal choice. But it just goes to show you, how desperate homeowners are to not pay this bill. I mean, because think about it. You're paying $11,000 a year to have coverage that you're basically not allowed to use, okay? Because if you make a claim, then that's almost a guarantee that you're either going to get dropped or your rate is going to skyrocket, as if it already hasn't. So making a claim, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. Now, when it comes to insurance, the situation in Florida is getting a little bit better. We are seeing more insurance companies come back to the state. In fact, there was a story that just came out today that was talking about how there's going to be over 400,000 policies that are going to drop off of Citizens Insurance and move over to private insurance companies this year. And already 195,000 of those takeovers have been approved. The latest company that's going to be taking over a bunch of Citizens policies is Trident Reciprocal Exchange. We have other companies like American Integrity. They're taking over 75,000 Citizens policies. Homeowners Choice is taking over 25,000 policies. Manatee Insurance Exchange is taking over 39,000 policies. Slide Insurance, 15,000. Tip Tap Insurance taking over 25,000 policies. So you are seeing a lot of companies jump back into the market. And they're taking over these policies because they are offering rates that are within 20% of the range that people are paying with Citizens, which is the law. If you get this offer, if you're paying, say, $1,000 a year with Citizens, which is obviously low, just for example's sake here, you get an offer from another insurance company that's $1,200 a year, that's 20% more expensive, but you have to take it because it's within that 20%. If it was $1,250 a year, you would be able to remain with Citizens because that would be too much. It'd be 25% more expensive than the policy you have, so you'd still be eligible to remain with Citizens. But to just give you guys an idea of just how much Citizens Insurance has grown over the years, in 2019, they had only 420,000 policies statewide, and then it ballooned to 1.4 million as of 2023. So it just shot up tremendously because of how many insurers were leaving the state. And now, as of 2024, they're down to 1.2 million. And by the end of the year, they should be down to 1 million if they keep shedding policies like this. So that is a good sign. But the bad news is that even though we're seeing more insurance companies come in, doesn't necessarily mean insurance is getting a whole lot cheaper. It means you just have more choices. And you know, insurance companies are going to have to compete on rate on some level, because that's the whole idea, is getting more insurance companies offering policies. That gives more competition, which in hope is supposed to lower rates. And some people have wrote me and told me that their rate is going down, but you are definitely one of the lucky ones if that's you, believe me. And to me, this is actually one of the #1 reasons why I wouldn't want to be buying a property in Florida right now, is just because of the unknown of what's going to happen with your insurance rate. Now, this could be a caveat too. If you're buying in an area, let's say, that's inland and you're not close to a lake or a river or the ocean, and maybe you're 20 or 30 feet above sea level, then you probably have a pretty low chance of flooding, and you're probably going to have pretty low homeowners insurance premiums. But that's going to be a small percentage of people who are moving to Florida, because most people want to be near the water. That's the whole point. You want to be close to the beach. You want to be, you know, driving distance to some sort of water source, because that's half the fun of living in Florida. But you know, Florida is also full of a lot of people who can't afford their homes. Those are the ones who are selling right now. And unfortunately, a lot of those people are also senior citizens, because the amount of people who are seniors that are moving in with each other, that are essentially boo-mates now. That's the term for seniors becoming roommates, is boo-mates. And it turns out that now over 1 million people nationwide that are 65 years or older now live with an unrelated roommate. There's been a big uptick in websites like Spare Room in order to find roommates for each other. The amount of people who are living with 1 to 4 roommates in the United States that are age 45 and above has more than doubled in the past decade. Because let's face it, you know, people who are working right now are having a hard time keeping up with the ever-rising cost of living. But if you're a senior citizen on a fixed income, most of them cannot afford it anymore. You know, a lot of people move to Florida to retire. You know, that's a large chunk of the Florida population, is people think, well, I'm just going to move down there because, you know, Florida is a retirement friendly state. Traditionally, that's what a lot of people have done, and that's true. And that's before all the expenses went completely haywire. You know, nobody had to pay $11,000 a year for homeowners insurance 5 years ago. That just didn't exist. But now that's a reality for many people. Same thing with the condos. Nobody was worried about, you know, having a giant $100,000 special assessment at a condo. You could be a senior citizen 5 years ago and buy a condo in Florida, 55 and older building, for like, you know, $80,000. And that would be great. Well, I pay $80,000 cash for this condo and I can just live here on the cheap forever. But that's not happening anymore. Now these people are getting hit with tens of thousands of dollars in assessment fees that a lot of them can't afford. And so what they're doing is they're moving in with each other. And that needs to be something that people are aware of, because I'm telling you, it's almost as expensive as living here in California now. Like, really, the only thing that's still cheaper in Florida is, yeah, you can still buy a house cheaper, but your property taxes are going to be higher. Your insurance is definitely going to be higher. You know, food prices are almost on par with what it costs here in California. The only thing that's really cheaper in Florida is food by a small margin, and the gas prices are still cheaper. That's about it. And that's coming from somebody that spends a lot of time in both places. I can tell you it's getting close, especially if you live in South Florida like we do. But I would also tell you that don't just delay your move if you want to move down there. If you can find an affordable rental in the area that you're looking in, by all means, go for it. Because you can check out the area, you can move around a couple of times and feel out different parts of the state that you may be interested in buying in. You start getting in tune with the local market, you start seeing different homes for sale, understand what's a good deal, what's a good value for you, and you can probably end up with a very good deal in the next 2 or 3 years, I would imagine, for most people. So it doesn't mean, hey, just don't come. It just means that if you are going to come, be smart about it financially and don't pick up the falling knife. I would love to move to a different area of Florida too and, you know, buy a house there on the cheap. But I think it makes sense to wait and just watch the prices come down, have your pick. You know, I would think in some areas that I'm looking at, you could buy a nice $500,000 house that they're selling today for $500,000, and maybe a couple years from now, that house might only cost $350,000, the real price of what it should really cost. So to me, that's well worth waiting for. But anyways, guys, if you're gonna come down, make sure you take a look at this video. Make sure you take a look at other videos of people that are living in Florida right now and see what they're experiencing and see if it's still affordable for you and feasible. Are you gonna be able to find the job that you wanna get? Are you gonna be able to afford housing based on the pay from that job? Lots of different things you need to take into consideration that really weren't that much of an issue 5-6 years ago. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.